How about our Detroit Lions? Man, this is a weird time to be alive. I know there's a lot of time for them to screw it up, but this is weird. No, I don't know if you know this, it's 3 straight games where they've won by 2 touchdowns or more. That hasn't happened since the 1950s. What's going on right now is rare. You know, and it's interesting, I think about why are the Detroit Lions successful right now, and there's all these reasons we could come up with. The one that I want to point out is I think one of the biggest reasons is our coach, Dan Campbell. The reason why I like Dan Campbell is because I think he's tough, he's disciplined, and he's gritty. That word gritty or grit, you see it on their advertisements right now for the Lions. It's because it's the word that he likes to use. We want to be a team of grit. What does it mean? It really means to be courageous and to have resolve in the face of difficulty. When you look at the Lions, why are they doing well right now? I think it's because they, as a team, have taken on the traits of their coach. They're disciplined, they're tough, and they're gritty. Now, I don't need much of an excuse to talk about the Lions. You know this. But this is actually a perfect way of connecting what I want to communicate to us today. Last week I talked about real presence. We're in this series, Real Presence, Real People, Real Purpose. So I'm going to talk about real people today. But what is it that makes us a community that's Christ-centered? What is it that makes us real people, if you will? Well, I think the answer is really simple. It's if we're a community that takes on the qualities of our shepherd, if we're a community that looks like Jesus, so that when people come into this church and this community and experience us, the hope then is that they will experience Jesus. If I were to ask you to make a list of some of your favorite qualities of Jesus, I'm sure that many of us would have a lot of the same things. One of them, I think, that would be on the top of most of our list is that Jesus loves everyone. He loves everyone. That's why I love in The Chosen, and I've talked about this scene over and over again because it's just such a wonderful one. When Peter goes to correct Jesus, why would you call Matthew? He's a sinner. And Jesus just looks at Peter and says, no, get used to different. Get used to different. I love everyone. Everyone. Jesus also loves us in our sinfulness. I think that's one of the things we love about Christ is that there's nothing we could do to make Christ love us less. He sees our weaknesses, he sees our shadows, he sees the things that aren't our beautiful traits, but he loves us in those things. The other thing we love about Jesus is he doesn't just love us in our weaknesses and in the things that we struggle with. He also shows us the way to freedom, to healing. He loves us enough not to leave us there. When it's the tax collectors, the Pharisees, the prostitutes, all the sinners that he encounters, he loves them first, and then he challenges them to change their life. Just like us. He loves all of us. Every one of us here, me included, we're all sinners. He loves us, but he challenges us to be different. And I could go on and on and on, but what is it that we love about Jesus? What is it that really, it's these 3 things. It's that with Jesus we feel loved, with Jesus we feel wanted, with Jesus we belong. So what is it about a community that's real people, that has this Christ-centeredness to it? It's a community that makes people feel loved, wanted, and like they belong here in this church. I just want to encourage you. I'm not going to go through the word for word the entire chapter, but Romans chapter 12. We did not hear it read today, but I just encourage you at some point this week to sit with this passage of Scripture, Romans 12. This is like St. Paul's instruction manual for Christian communities. This is what we ought to look like. So I'm just going to highlight a few things. Here in Romans 12, St. Paul says, let love be sincere. Wasn't this what we mean by real? That love is coming from the heart, we mean it. Let it be authentic. Let love be sincere. Love one another with a mutual affection. Anticipate one another in showing honor. Exercise hospitality. Be welcoming to your guest. This is why every week I say welcome to all of our guests at the beginning of Mass, because I want those who are visiting us to know that we're happy you're here. Praise Jesus. And hopefully we do the same when we see visitors as well. Bless those who persecute you. That one's hard. It's hard to bless those who have caused us great pain. But that's what St. Paul encourages us to do. That's what Jesus does. He loves those, even those who have hurt him. I always think it's fascinating. Here Jesus is hurting on the cross. His pain is very present, right? He's dying, and he says, Father, forgive them, right? In the midst of great hurt and pain, he blesses them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. This joke totally failed last week. I was congratulating all of you, Grandville, for beating Caledonia, and it was just like silence and crickets and... but yeah, congratulations. I rejoice with you because I'm no longer a Caledonia boy. I'm a Grandville boy now. So well done, Grandville. You've brought me over. Weep with those who weep. We don't have daily Mass when we have a funeral, not just because we need the space for the visitation before the funeral Mass begins, but because we're one community. We're one family here. That means when we have a funeral, everybody in this church should feel welcome to go to the funeral Mass, because someone from our parish is grieving. Some family here, even if we don't know them well, is grieving. So we weep with those who weep. Do not be haughty, be humble. Do not repay evil for evil. And my favorite at the very end of the chapter, do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good. Isn't that what Jesus does? He doesn't return evil for evil. He conquers evil with good. That's what happens on the cross. So again, this is what it looks like for us to be a Christ-centered community, that people would experience these things by entering into our church and being with us. But here's the question. How are we doing with this? I think actually as a parish, I think we're doing well. I think there's things that we can do better, but by and large, I think we're on the right track. But how are we doing in the world, in the United States? I don't know if you know this, but this past May, the Surgeon General of our country said that right now, we're living through the worst epidemic of our time. We are living through the worst epidemic of our time. Anyone know what that is? It's not COVID. Loneliness is the answer. Our Surgeon General has just told us in May that the greatest health crisis of our time is loneliness. Here's the data that backs it up. 1 out of 2 Americans have felt lonely or experienced loneliness recently. And then he says 40% of American adults have one confidant, one close, intimate friend. That may not sound bad, but think about it this way. 60% of American adults do not have a close friend or one confidant. That means, brothers and sisters, that we have marriages that exist where we don't even see the spouse as a confidant. Loneliness is pervading our culture. And why is loneliness a problem? Because with loneliness, we clearly don't have people experiencing authentic community. What are the hallmarks of community? To be loved, wanted, and to belong. Have that, you're not going to be lonely. You don't have that, enter loneliness. So what do we do about it? I'm just going to set this down for a second because I have a prop this weekend. Every once in a while I get inspired and I do arts and crafts. How about that? I did this, by the way. You don't need to be able to read it. I'll explain it. But I was listening to this podcast, and it was talking about this idea of proximate relationships. And so the person was saying, we like to describe the quality of our relationships by space. So like if someone, for example, is getting too close to us and we don't really want them to be a close friend, we say, you're invading my space, go away. Right? We've said that before, I think And so, but the reality is it's because people who are our confidants are allowed to be closer to us. And so he has these 4 spheres where he describes what relationships look like within community. And so let me just go through this. So the outer sphere is called the public sphere, okay? So that's the dark green here. So the outer sphere is the public sphere. So this is the sphere where it's 50 or more people. This is a community like Grandville or Detroit Lions fans or sad Michigan State fans. Yesterday was miserable. Congrats to you, Michiganders, with Michigan fans. We're all Michiganders, but Michigan fans, you had a great day, not like us Spartans. But anyway, public sphere, lots of people, 50 plus, that's the deal. The next sphere in, that's the lighter green, that's the social sphere. And social sphere is 20 to 50 people. So it's not as big, but it's still a lot of people. This is where things get a little bit more there's groups forming. So you would have like a football team or, but different. This is the type of, these people are the ones you're going to ask advice for. So you're going to say, we're part of like the same community in general. Who would you recommend to be a piano teacher? Or who would you recommend I go to buy a car? Or who's a good realtor in this area? Or where should I go to church in Grandville? St. Pius would be the answer. These types of things. This would be the social sphere. These are the people you're asking advice for. You may not be close to them, but you're going to ask their advice. Then there's the personal sphere. Now we're getting to, it's not 20 to 50 people, but this is 5 to 12 people. So this is like family, close friends, work friends. This would be the personal sphere. These are the people who know you. These are the people that, by and large, they know your gifts, they know your talents, they know your weaknesses, they know your struggles, they know your shadows. These are the people who know you more intimately. And then the center is the intimate sphere, and that's your confidant, your spouse. This is 2 to 4 people. So hopefully for many of us, it's a confidant, it's a lifelong friend, it's a spouse maybe, and Jesus should hopefully be there. Here's the problem. How many of us actually allow ourselves to go into the inner sphere? I said last week, we can get 80 people for a Detroit Lions game. 50 plus people, that's public sphere, my friends. We can get 80 people for a Lions game, but we can't get more than 10 for Alpha. So we do struggle a little bit getting from that sphere to the next one in. That's a problem. Another way to put it is, if we think that we're going to experience real people, authentic Christian community, and stay in the outer sphere, you'll never experience it. We will never experience real community if we stay here. And what does it look like to stay here? Well, one way it looks like is come to Mass on Sunday, but never stay. Right? Here's what it looks like in the church. Outer sphere is our parish, St. Pius X. Social sphere is things like Alpha, That Man Is You, Ladies Bible Study, Moms Group. The personal sphere then is where you start to form small groups within those social groups. So again, you have a small group in That Man Is You, or the moms group. You have 3 to 5 moms who develop a close friendship and support for one another. Then of course, you hope to have an inner sphere where you have a close relationship with someone in your parish, with Jesus, that's supporting you in your faith. This is what we're striving for. This is what we want. But again, how do we get there? The question, and I think it's similar. I want to quote Pope Benedict XVI here. Pope Benedict XVI said, before he passed away, of course, we need to make church smaller. And he didn't mean less people. He meant smaller groups where intimacy and friendship and communal life can grow and form. My question for all of us this weekend is this. What invitation are you saying yes to? In our gospel, it's all about the invitation to come to the wedding feast, come to the feast. And there's people who said no, and there's people who said yes. Jesus is inviting you to come to the feast, to be a part of this community in such a way that you can experience him through this church. Some of you might say, well, I've never been invited. You have now. I'm inviting you. I'm inviting you to consider how you can be challenged to grow in your faith this year. So if you've been stuck in the public sphere, my challenge for you is to go to the social. If you've been stuck in the social sphere, my challenge for you is to go to the personal. But I want you to move one step closer, because it's through growing together that we will experience Christ together. And that's the desire for this parish. It will be a parish that's Christ-centered enough that as real people, we're not just experiencing Jesus personally, but we're bringing each other to Jesus as well.